it is day 24 of the Every Bit Counts challenge, and today we are making celery salt. One of my favorite ways to use the dehydrator is to make seasonings and dehydrated pepper flakes and like onion salt and things like that. Your natural ingredients without all of the extra additives, and they make delicious flavorings for all sorts of things. And celery is one of those things that makes a great dehydrated food. Celery is notoriously tricky to freeze because it gets really super mushy and it doesn't keep forever in your fridge. And so a lot of times you end up with this half a bunch of celery that you've only pulled a few strings off of, and it goes bad and you end up tossing it. But this is a great way to use that extra celery, and it's a great way to make an additive-free celery salt, and it is definitely incredibly easy. So the first thing we're going to do is get out our dehydrator trays. And like we've said, when we do these other dehydrated recipes, you can do these in an oven on bread-proof setting, but you have to keep a little bit more watchful eye on it than in a dehydrator because the ovens typically don't get as low as your dehydrator would. Now, a couple of things to consider: make sure you wash really good your celery. And I'm going to, as I chop up the celery, you'll notice that I put the leaves on one tray and the rest of the celery pieces on other trays. That's because the leaves are going to dehydrate faster. And so it lets me, I can open up my dehydrator and pull things and put things back in. So I can pull the leaves out before I pull the rest out once they're dehydrated. Now always remember, with your dehydrator, the thinner you cut your pieces, the smaller you cut your pieces, the quicker the dehydrating times. So I'm not going to do really massive chunks when I dehydrate my celery. So that's really the first step. Let's chop our celery. I'm going to put the leaves on this tray, and then I'm going to put the rest on these trays. If there's any bad parts as you're chopping your celery, any brown parts or discolored, just toss those to the side. You can feed them to your chickens, or you can just throw them out. By the way, if you enjoy watching these and you're getting some value out of it, be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell so you can be notified when we put out new content. All right, I'm all done, and as you can see, I've got 4 trays of celery ready to go in the dehydrator. Now, like I said, one of the things I just love about the Excalibur dehydrator is that you can do things 2 different times. So I will pull my leaves out first because they will dry faster. A little bit of warning with that. You can put 2 different things at once. You can one day stick carrots in and the next day stick celery in and the next day stick, like you can have things rotating as you pull them out of the garden. However, don't put something in there that you don't want to adopt the flavor of something else. Like I wouldn't put a sweet and a savory thing in together unless you just are going for that. But I wouldn't put like apples in there with your onions. You're gonna have oniony tasting apples and you don't want that. So be careful what you cross in your dehydrator, but it is one of the many things that I absolutely love about the Excalibur dehydrator is because you can have all sorts of different things going at once. It's got 9 whole trays. There are tons of dehydrator options though, and like I said, you don't even have it to have a dehydrator. You can just pop it right into the oven. So the celery itself, the full stalks, are going to take quite a bit of time, 12 to 18 hours to dehydrate fully. The leaves probably 6 to 8. And you want to really make sure this isn't like an apple that you kind of do it to your taste. You want to really make sure this is dry, or when we make the celery salt, it's going to be really super cakey, and you don't want that. So we're going to make sure we get these nice and dried out completely before we pull them out. So let's go put these in the dehydrator. And since celery is taller, I am going to give this a little bit of space. You could put them every row, but it just helps air circulation. Because I only have 4 trays, I'm gonna put them every other row. And then the lid just slides on really easily, like that. And we have this handy dandy little guide. We are dehydrating vegetables right here. So 125. And we just turn this. Now the only thing left to do is let it set for 12 to 18 hours. All right, it's been about 18 hours and this celery looks perfect. It's nice and it's dry, it's brittle, ready to go. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grind the celery up in this little spice grinder that we have. Makes quick work of things like this. You could do this in a mortar and pestle too if you wanted to. And I'm going to pour this into a measuring cup so I can see how much is in it, because the amount of salt we're going to put in it is a ratio balance. Now your celery to salt ratio in this recipe is going to be 4 to 1. You're going to have 4 parts celery to 1 part salt, which means for every half cup, I'm going to have an 1/8 a cup of salt, okay? Or for every cup, you're going to have 1/4 of a cup of salt. So I'm going to put an 1/8 of a cup of salt in here. And actually, just to get it mixed up really well, I'm going to run it through my little grinder one more time. And now I'm going to pour it into a container. I'm just using a little bitty 1/2 pint jar. And that's that. If you want to seal it for a little bit longer shelf life, you can use the vacuum sealer, but we're going to use this right away. So I'm going to just leave it in a jar. Now, your celery salt will last up to 3 months-ish on the shelf. It's not going to last as long as store-bought celery salt, and that's because we made it without the preservatives, which makes it a lot healthier and better for you. It just doesn't have as long of a shelf life, so be sure to use it in the next 3 or 4 months. This is a fantastic seasoning for chicken or fish. Sprinkle it on a baked potato, anything like that, and it is a delicious addition and super healthy for you. That wraps up another day of the Every Bit Counts Challenge. We are so thankful you've joined us, and we will see you back here tomorrow. So that's really the first step, is let's chop our dehydrator.
Let's chop our dehydrator.